so glad that you have joined me today. This is a fun class. People love to watch cooking classes, and I'm sure you're very intrigued on how we can do yummy desserts that have no sugar, no dairy, and no grains. So basically, I have been on my journey for, oh my goodness, almost 40 years. Literally. And initially, when I went through my lifestyle change, the naturopath that I was working with all those many years ago just basically took me off of all sugar, all dairy, and all grains. And I'm telling you, the grains was the hardest one. I just thought I could minimize that and get away with it. But over the years, I've realized, you know what, I really need to give up grains too. And so it's definitely a work in progress, but I wanted to show you that it's possible to do this, and very, very exciting, especially when it comes to breads and desserts. Thinking that you can make a brownie or a cookie or a cake or a pie crust without grains, to me, was so revolutionizing. And it's just cool that we can actually learn these things and do them simply. So I love desserts, and I think there's a place for them. Occasionally we like to have them, not overdo on them, but within reason, and making some of these changes, it's not very hard to make desserts in a much healthier way. So 3 steps I always encourage people to do is, first of all, we've got to learn. And that's what you're doing here tonight. You're going to learn how we can do things differently. And I think that it can be revolutionizing for you too when you learn a few tricks and tips. It can be really life-changing for you. So the first thing is to learn. Number 2 is to find out what the alternatives are, because there are alternatives to a lot of different things. And we just got to learn what those alternatives are. So you don't maybe have to even give up some of your favorite foods if you're trying to avoid some of these. Maybe you can make something very similar with some great alternatives. And I'm going to show you some great alternatives shortly. Number 3 is to enjoy being in your kitchen and creating, because actually you're not going to find a lot of this stuff out there. And if you really want good quality desserts that are without the sugar, the dairy, and the grains, then you'll want to create them. But I just want to let you know that I'm not one that slaves away in my kitchen all day. I actually like to make things simple. And so I'm going to show you some desserts that are basically simple. Yeah, they're going to take a little bit of time, and some I actually have fun taking time on. But for the most part, I make things simple, and I like to help you make things simple too. So first of all, let's talk about why not sugar. Did you know that 45% of Americans' sugar intake comes from drinks? Wow. Do you know if you could cut out all the drinks that you're drinking besides water, it could probably take, reduce your budget by about 45% too. Drinks are expensive, but there's a lot of sugar. And it's costly, it's addictive. And instead of that, we can go to what they call the sugar alcohols, or something like monk fruit. Now, I buy mine all in bulk, so they're all repackaged in these containers. So this is monk fruit sweetener. It does come from the monk fruit, and it is mixed with stevia. There's a little bit of stevia. I have grown stevia. So it is not just a sugar substitute. It really is a plant. And I like the monk fruit stevia. And some recipes, I powder it up because, and I'll show you today, or I'll show you a recipe today that I actually use the powdered monk fruit. And I just put it in my blender and powder it up a little bit. Then there's allulose. And allulose is a little bit different. There's erythritol too, there's xylitol, and of course stevia. These are the two main ones that I use. Now I use the monk fruit in most everything, but there's a couple of reasons why I definitely would use allulose. Number one is in cookies. I promise you they will be green if you use the monk fruit. So make sure and use allulose. I've done it too many times. I don't know why they turn green, but they do. So second reason is if you're making frozen desserts, the allulose keeps it soft. And so even after you put it in the freezer, it can be more like soft serve ice cream. And that's nice to know. So I hope you took that note down. For cookies and for frozen desserts, you want to use the allulose. Okay, so why not grains? Most grains today are actually genetically modified, so GMO. And then they are infused with this Roundup Ready, which contains the glyphosate, which is what is causing all of our food sensitivities. This is where the gluten allergies are coming in, and that's why so many people have them today. It's because of the glyphosate in our grains that are grown from, the beginning. And that glyphosate, again, creates inflammation in the gut. And that's why grains are increasingly being a problem for people. And that's why people are doing everything that they can to avoid them. So we either have to avoid the genetically modified grains or really try to cut down on grains. The third reason why people are trying to cut down on the grains is simply because of carb overload. Carbs are pushed, or I should say grain carbs are pushed for breakfast, for snacks, for lunch, for more snacks, for dinner, for desserts. And if you add all those up at the end of the day, we are overcarbing. And that is really where the weight gets packed on. People are overweight simply because we've overcarbed. So if we can get rid of the grains in our diet and greatly reduce greatly reduce our carb intake overall. So the sugar carbs, the grain carbs, and then look more to our fruits and vegetables for our carb choices, it's so much better. So why not dairy? Well, same thing. Our cows are eating all those genetically modified grains with the glyphosate, and it creates those dairy intolerances. And so we know as humans, our bodies were never meant to digest chemicals and all the additives that are being put in our foods today. And it shows that our bodies are not being able to understand, digest, and just assimilate these chemicals that are actually harmful. So let's talk a little bit about keto and paleo, because I think sometimes people are confused about what these both are. I like to just share with people that I am a keto coach for a pretty big company. And it's all about removing your sugar carbs, your grain carbs, and your fruit. Then replacing them with proteins and fats, especially fats, because you're using fats for your energy source instead of your carbs. And that is possible. After all these years, we've realized that it's not really fat that puts on the weight as much as it is the carbs, because you can actually lose weight with a high fat diet. But the problem with keto is that quality is not really even a focus. And so they push bacon and cheese and all of these things. And long term, it's really not a healthy diet. That's why I encourage paleo. paleo gives up the sugar carbs, the grain carbs, but the dairy too. And so I really like to do more paleo and get a little bit of fruit here and there, because I feel like we need some fruit and we need to really stack up on our vegetables. So, all right. So last but not least is why use essential oils in your food. So I'm one that all the foods that I do have essential oils in them. And I feel that that's a very, very important part. So first of all, let me talk about some of my favorite citrus essential oils are lemon and wild orange. I use these in a lot of recipes, some of the recipes that I've done tonight, and also lime. Lime, they're just great for alkalizing, for stimulating good gut metabolism, for improving digestion, and also great for detox. So your citrus oils are really good for a lot of things, and that's why it's good to add them to your water, add them to your drinks, and add them in all kinds of foods. And I'll talk about that as we go along. Also, cinnamon and ginger are really good for digestion and building immunity. There's so many great things about these oils, and the flavors are so good besides all the citrus oils. I mean, there's such good flavor. So the other thing about these is that they're good for really curbing your appetite, along with peppermint. So these are really good for curbing your appetite, and together, I mean, it's good to increase good digestion, metabolism, and curb your cravings. And so these are very good for that. Spearmint is another one, along with peppermint, that is also really good to add to foods. Now, there's a whole lot of other essential oils that I use in other types of cooking, black pepper and coriander and, oh my gosh, basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano. There's wonderful essential oils. The big key is knowing whether you can use them internally. doTERRA has a supplement fact label on it. And so always look for that supplement fact label. If anything has a supplement fact label, it means internal use is recommended. So if it has that supplement fact label, you can feel confident that it's good for you. So I'm going to share examples of what you can do that are free of sugar, dairy, and grains. And I'm going to tell you at the end how you can get these recipes, okay? So let's first start with cookies. You know, cookies is something that once I was taken off the grains and I knew that this was not a good thing for me. I mean, I haven't eaten a cookie in years until I realized, hey, you don't have to use grains. You can use your almond flour or coconut flour. And I actually forgot to show you these things right at the beginning. So these are a great way to make great cookies. You can do the almond flour, coconut flour, and also like almond butter or the sunflower butter. I don't use peanut butter in my recipes, you'll notice. And that is because peanuts grow underground. I don't care even if they're organic. They've grown underground and they contain a lot of molds. So I generally stay away from the peanut butter and use the almond butter or the sunflower butter. So these are my minty chip cookies, and they're a little darker because I use the sunflower butter with them and then the coconut flour. And I also put drops of peppermint and spearmint essential oil. So these are actually carob chips, not chocolate chips, but you could put chocolate chips if you like. But these are a sugar-free one, so I try to avoid the sugars there too. So these are one of my favorite cookies. My husband loves them too. This is nut butter chews. And these nut butter chews have ginger in them, ginger essential oil in them. And it is actually just almond flour, and it actually has some hemp seed in it. and of course, baking soda and other things, nut butters. But this is just a really soft cookie. You can see it's just very soft. And I just love that. It's just very tasty, very soft, moist. And everybody loves these cookies. They're just wonderful. So sometimes you see a little bit of green in the middle, but this one, it looks good. So anyway, love the cookies. So now, this is actually a cheesecake. This is my pistachio lime cheesecake. People say, well, what do you do in place of dairy? Well, I have the coconut milk, and I use a lot of coconut cream. And when I'm talking about coconut cream, basically I'm just saying, open the can and scoop off the top. That's where your coconut cream is. And it's more thick. The bottom of it is, now this is because they've kind of gone through the winter and been in my pantry, or the last couple of months. I'm in a colder climate. So if you're in a warmer climate, put them in the refrigerator overnight, and the coconut cream will rise to the top. So it's a great thing to be able to use. Actually, you can just use that coconut cream and add a little bit of stevia or powdered monk fruit to be a whipped cream. Add a couple of drops of wild orange and vanilla, and oh my gosh, you've got the best whipped cream. And you just blend that with a little whisk, and it works really, really fast. Addition to this, and for dairy, is using the Dia brand coconut cream cheese. Very clean ingredients, and I like that. I like the fact that it has clean ingredients. So DAIYA is that coconut cream cheese. And like I said, it's a fun way to be able to make some desserts, and especially like a cheesecake. So this tastes more like that, like a key lime pie. And of course, it is full of that lime essential oil. And it's got the pistachios for not only the crust, but for the garnish on top. It's just lovely. So next, this is actually a parfait. And this is kind of fun to make. So basically, you can do it with strawberries or raspberries or both. I did it with both raspberries and strawberries today. And I actually started yesterday. And so you just mix it up with a little bit of chia and your monk fruit sweetening and wild orange, essential oil, and lemon, and put it in the fridge overnight, because the chia actually thickens it. It's a great jam, kind of. So, or pudding. So, and then the middle layer is a chia pudding. And basically you've got your coconut milk and your chia seeds and a little bit of sweetening again, and mix it up, put it in the refrigerator overnight. And then the top is actually just the coconut cream, a little bit of carob powder or cacao, whichever you want. And again, some of the powdered monk fruit. And then I just layered it and then put a raspberry on top. So this is really kind of a fun dessert to share or have at a party. And it does have those 3 different layers that you make, but all of them are super simple, super simple. So you just make them up. And I like to make this last one, the carob or chocolate layer, last, because you want that one soft, so it will kind of go in very smooth. And it's just really kind of a cute, fun dessert. And you could even enjoy it for breakfast because it's got all good stuff. So pile on the nuts or more fruit if you'd like as well. And you can enjoy it that way. All right, let's see if I can make room for some of these so that you can see them. Next, we have, this is what I call cinnamon pie. So again, no dairy, no sugar, no grains. The crust is just walnuts. Basically, I throw the walnuts in the blender. I do add just a tiny bit of sweetening, tiny bit, and then just press it in the bottom of your pan. How easy is that for a pie crust? Just walnuts. And then The filling is pretty simple too. You're not even adding sweetening. You're adding either your carob or chocolate chips. You put them in the double boiler and heat them until just barely soft, which you added in the blender to coconut milk and the carob chips. Let's see, blend it up. And I always add the cinnamon to this. Love, love, love the cinnamon in here. Blend it up and just pour it in your pie. This is a super simple pie to make. You can literally make it in 15 minutes. No baking at all, from start to finish. You can just make it in 15 minutes. And I just put some sliced blanched almonds on top just to make it kind of pretty. So this is a very fun pie to make. And again, it's very filling, very delicious, very tasty. It's rich, but not too sweet. And I think people really, really enjoy that about it. Okay, last but not least, let's get to some other fun stuff here, is frozen desserts. So this is my frozen dessert maker. Actually, you put the bowl in the freezer and you keep it in the freezer all the time. And then you have a frozen dessert maker that you just blend up your contents and then pour it in here. And it's just awesome. It comes out soft serve. And I just finished this actually right before we started. So it was kind of noisy for some of you that might have gone on early. So I can just share a little bit of how to, like I said, this is just a great soft serve ice cream. This is called Pina Colada. So it has coconut milk, 2 cans, and it has fresh or frozen pineapple. I actually use both. And then it has a little bit of coconut in it and a little bit of allulose, so it will stay soft. And then, of course, we did lemon essential oil in there. So very, very tasty, very yummy pina colada taste. And yeah, just super, super yummy. So add any toppings you want or just enjoy it just like this. It's very good. So the thing about doing this again is you just got to learn why we shouldn't eat some of the typical things that are available on the market, and then learn about the alternatives that you can do. Like I said, it's easy to do the alternatives. I might bring out too that I love honey, and I used honey for years, but for blood sugar, and I feel like when we get in our older years, we need to be more conscious of our blood sugar levels. We should when we're younger as well. But it still does raise your blood sugar levels, and these other sweeteners don't. Use these with reason, and you're not overdoing, you're not eating all of these every day. But if you're using them in reason, these alternatives can be great. So, and then 3, just enjoy being in your kitchen. Now, additionally, if you don't have the essential oils, I invite you to come along and get a wholesale membership at 25% off, because this is the secret sauce. This is what makes everything taste so yummy, but it's also really good for gut cleansing, metabolism, and just supporting your internal organs. That's why I love adding my essential oils, because I feel like I'm always doing my body some good. So just the bottom line to all of this is these are simple things. These are simple foods. I think that sometimes we make it difficult because we're not familiar with them. Yes, some of these things may be a little bit different, and they may not be some things that you're buying already. However, just start someplace. Start with one recipe at a time and make it, and then go from there. Start adding, and I promise you, your gut will feel better. You will feel better. You'll have more energy. You sleep better. And again, we're not going to overdo with all of these things, but some healthy changes in your diet can make huge differences in the way you feel, in the way your gut feels, in the way you feel and look, dropping pounds, or just